Welcome to the last small group session for August. In this session, we will conclude our study of the book of Job with its last 5 chapters, God's response to Job. At this point in the story, Job has suffered great personal strife, defended his innocence against his friends, and has been asking for the chance to vindicate himself before God and to find out why he has been made to suffer. Considering what Job's relationship with God was like, this request seems pretty reasonable. But when God breaks his silence in chapter 38, after Elihu's speech, he does not answer Job's questions. Instead, God takes a different approach and proceeds to ask a series of questions that show how little Job really knows. In chapters 38, 39, and part of 40, God speaks about his creation and all the details that went into this creation that people cannot even fathom. Through these details, many comparisons can be drawn about God and humans. God is everlasting, and our earthly time is limited. He has knowledge of all things, whereas we are ignorant in so many things. God is perfect in his power, while we are weak and imperfect in our sin. God organizes and sustains all of creation, and we can find no fault in his work. If there's nothing wrong with God's creation, then do we have reason to fear it and question it? Job has been questioning God about the trials he has suffered through the course of the book, not fully understanding that God is in complete control and has a plan for all things and experiences in life. Beyond what we can even be aware of, he does and allows things to happen to us every day that are for our good, just as Job's suffering was for a greater purpose and good. God's first speech to Job has its intended effect. Job realizes his smallness compared to God's infinite greatness and quickly recants. I am nothing. How could I ever find the answers? I will cover my mouth with my hand. I have said too much already. I have nothing more to say. Job realizes his error in wanting to reason with God and yields himself to the one who knows all. Job's humility is expressed through his choice to say nothing more. The voices of his friends couldn't keep Job from defending himself, but the voice of God makes him realize that there is nothing he can say to justify himself. God knows all, and we can neither comprehend nor compel him. Job realizes this and accepts and surrenders to God's plans for his life, without knowing what his future will hold. When we continue with the story in chapters 40 and 41, we see that while Job has now recognized his error and repents for it, God still wants to show him that there is even more to understand about his creation. No one can ever fully know everything about God, so there is always more we can learn. God speaks about the creatures he has made, specifically the behemoth and the leviathan. God set forth his power through the creation of these animals, which are fearful yet majestic, untamable yet wonderful. If no living thing has a chance against these creatures except God, then we do not want to ever try to stand against him. Job again realizes God's mightiness and humbles himself before God to repent. I know that you can do everything, and that no purpose of yours can be withheld from you. Therefore I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes see you. Therefore I abhor myself and repent in dust and ashes. Job recognizes that while he had a relationship with God before, he wasn't seeing him fully. Now, after getting a glimpse of the omnipotence of God, Job has come to understand that while God is too great for human comprehension, all Job really needs to understand is that God will always be in his life as a comforter and provider of strength. To conclude the story of Job, God instructs him to intercede for his friends who have made claims against God that were untrue. When Job prays for his friends, not only does God give them mercy, he also blesses Job with twice as much as he had before. new livestock, 10 more children, and a long life that allowed him to see his children and grandchildren grow for 4 generations. From this ending, we can understand that while our suffering won't necessarily be rewarded monetarily or with earthly things, we know that God can work good through suffering. If we want His plans to guide our lives, they will always lead us to a great ending, an ending where we can be with Him eternally. As we finish studying about Job this month, let's look back and extract the teachings that we can apply to our own lives. We want to always trust that God has a purpose for our lives in times of abundance and times of struggle. We cannot impose our human perceptions of things like justice and sin on God. God's love can be felt through His comfort during trials, but also through the redirection and refinement of our lives that we experience after living through such trials. We want to experience an intimate relationship with God, and that can happen through open communication and honesty with Him. God is omniscient and all-powerful, and we want to be humble before Him. You can now turn to your guides and answer the discussion questions.